Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 28 of the series. If you did miss the last episode, Max Verstappen won his third race of the season and so far the only Grand Prix winner this season, and he didn't just win this race, he dominated it. It was a last lap overtake for myself to get P2 away from Oscar Piastri, and we worked so hard to bring that gap down. It was made quite difficult with the consistent attack from Charles Leclerc behind us until he would suffer an engine failure and collide with his teammate, causing an absolute disaster for Ferrari in Spain, with both cars not scoring any points. Going into this round, though, Max Verstappen extends his championship lead to 34 points ahead of Oscar Piastri. Then it's Lando Norris in third, 2 points behind his teammate. Myself in fourth, 4 points behind Lando. And our teammate Sonny Hayes is in 16th, still yet to score a point this season. And in the Constructors, it's Red Bull, Ford, and McLaren are tied on points in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari sit third, 36 points behind, and Apex GP, we sit fourth, 16 points further behind. And we're going to jump straight to the durability with a major turbo reliability upgrade. And considering we're in a high inflation scenario, getting an upgrade which is only 78 resource points is massive. And it comes with a 0% failure rate. So even though I could rush it and get it before Austria, I'm going to take advantage of that 0% failure rate and just make sure it gets in, especially being a major upgrade. With the powertrain now, another upgrade which is very cheap at the moment is the major engine power upgrade with a new exhaust, and the same thing as before, just going to do a standard development on this one. But it is now time to jump into our next secret meeting, and this is something I have been waiting for. I have been talking about keeping my allegiance with Mercedes power unit, and now we have been approached by Mercedes themselves, taking a look at the performance. They have a best finishing result with George Russell at the last race in Barcelona of 6th position and currently sit in 6th in the Constructors, which is low from Mercedes expectations. On the other hand, though, I also got the team's best finish last time out of a P2, and the team sits 4th in the Constructors. So there's things to think about here, whether if I'm going to go to Mercedes would actually be a step forward in our career. We would have to have some time to see how the team progresses and which team could be the best for the next season. So we will, for the first time this series, continue the talks with a rival team.
Been scouring the socials and asking around, and I'm delighted to say that the team are none the wiser about us chatting with anyone else. And the meeting went well, too. I know. I'm amazing. You're welcome.
So the meeting at this stage is still under wraps, which is excellent to know because being caught could hinder our driver recognition. And so last episode I mentioned our weakness on this game so far has been the wet conditions, and I think the game listened because the Grand Prix will be wet. At least the first portion of the Austrian Grand Prix will be, but we have a dry qualifying, so at least there's a little bit of a saviour there that we could try and defend a strong qualifying position if we're able to do that. And with some of the odd upgrades that we can get in this high inflation scenario, the ones that do come are proving to be massive because we are once again now the fastest car on the grid. The crew back at the factory have worked wonders that by round 4 we have gone from the 6th fastest car to the fastest. Haas Toyota also bring upgrades to get closer to Mercedes, and Audi Sport also bring upgrades to leapfrog themselves ahead of the Racing Bulls Ford team to no longer be the slowest car on the grid as we head into qualifying.
High up in the mountains, here at Spielberg, it's time for qualifying on what will be the fastest laps of the season. Stand by for qualifying at the Austrian Grand Prix.
On paper, this looks like a very basic circuit to get right for a qualifying lap, but it is far from that. A couple of very crucial corners around here that can throw away the entire lap, and that is exactly why I love the Red Bull Ring so much. It is one of my favorite tracks on the calendar, and it is so good to be back here for Season 2 as we complete our second flying lap here. We've gone purple in the first sector, and this is on a second run on these set of tyres, and that'll put us third, and we will stay third when the checkered flag falls here in Q1. And it's Lando Norris fastest by 3/10 to his teammate Oscar Piastri. Our teammate Sonny Hayes is in 13th, 1.1 seconds behind, and knocked out in qualifying 1 is Alex Albon by a 10th of a second. Liam Lawson, both of the Haas Toyotas, Oliver Behrman ahead of Esteban Ocon. Isaac Hadjar makes it both the Racing Bull Fords out, and Nico Hulkenberg rounds out the grid for the Grand Prix on Sunday as the lap times start absolutely tumbling, and we now go fastest, and we'll now jump onto another lap here on this set of tyres, and you can definitely tell we're facing a little bit of tyre wear there. A lot of understeer, a lot of oversteer, so the car is very, very unstable going through those last two flat-out corners, and by the end of the session, it is Oscar Piastri fastest by 2/10 to myself. George Russell's in third, 3/10 behind. Knockdown qualifying twos, Antonelli by 200s. Both Alpine Mercedes, Gasly ahead of Stroll. Our teammate Sonny Hayes down in 14th. Franco Colapinto and Gabriel Bortoletto rounding out qualifying two here as we jump straight to the end of our first flying lap here on a set of used tyres. And this is going to put us to the top. But as we come around at the end of the session, Verstappen has pipped us. Can we get him back here in qualifying? And we can! It is pole position for the Austrian Grand Prix. We managed to do it by 3/10 of a second. Charles Leclerc lines up in third, and he has got Oscar Piastri on the second row of the grid with him.
Good afternoon and welcome to Spielberg and to a circuit that in one form or another has held every Austrian Grand Prix in the championship except the very first back in 1964. It was at this race that John Watson lost a bet and his beard when he took Team Penske's only F1 victory in 1976. If anything, the stakes are even higher today, with 25 points available for victory and a crucial advantage in the championship fight. It's a short lap here in Spielberg with just 10 corners, 7 to the right and 3 to the left, making up the total distance of 2.6 miles. And expect to see a lot of cars running wide today, especially through the last corner, as the wet conditions make the cars skittish through the downhill sections. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Joshua Pearce lines up on pole position, edging out Max Verstappen, who'll start from P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Leclerc, Piastri, George Russell and Norris, Aaron, Hamilton, Sainz and Fernando Alonso, Antonelli, Gasly, Lance Stroll and Hayes, Colapinto, Bortoletto, Alex Albon and Liam Lawson, Behrman, Ocon, Hadjar and Nico Hülkenberg rounds off the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And alongside me today is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll try anyway. It's Ant Davidson. Now, Ant, you know us. Professionals as we are, we don't listen to rumours all the time, just some of the time. And in the case of this driver, I think we were right to listen to those rumours because they were true.
Seems like the rumours are true, Crofty. Now, the good thing is for the driver that if you've potentially signed or had chats with a team that are going to further your career, that's all well and good. But the problem it immediately creates within your own team now is that potentially the team stop giving you inside information, and therefore you're not privy to that knowledge of where the car's going in terms of its future development.
Okay, radio check, radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
And, well, I was banking on it drying up at the end of the race, so I went with a setup to suit both conditions, but it looks like a full wet setup could have been the play with it being the full wet tyres as well. I will see how far I can take these tyres, as a pit stop isn't really necessary per the rules, but that will all depend if these tyres can go the distance as we now wait for the start of the Grand Prix, and we are away at a very, very wet Red Bull Ring here in Austria, and we've got an absolute flyer start compared to Max Verstappen, but we outbraked ourselves. There's not enough grip for us all the way out here. We break it into wheel spin, and Verstappen, he'll go by us. He goes into the lead. We're now in second place. We've got Charles Leclerc right up behind us as well in the Ferrari, and we're going to go down the inside and try and claim this lead back. But once again, we don't have the grip on the front end, and so we understeer directly Max Verstappen. We get a warning for the collision with him. A fair play, though, because that was a bit of a kamikaze dive bomb for sure, and we take the lead of the Grand Prix. We've got a 7/10 buffer to Max Verstappen, but he is now under attack from Charles Leclerc, and right behind them is Oscar Piastri. It is all to play for. All the drivers that are up the front in the championship are here up the front. Lando Norris, he's down in 6th position. He's the one trying to capitalize here, and he's trying to chase down Max Verstappen but he finds himself further down the field. He's under attack for Paul Aaron, and then it's Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, and Kimi Antonelli rounding out the top 10. We lead though, we've got the fastest lap, but as we now come up to turn 3 here, Max Verstappen down the inside. Is he going to be able to get the move away from us? We're on the outside, so we've got a little bit more of the traditional racing line, but he squeezes us all the way over to the curb. We break it into a little bit of wheel spin there. We're using a heap of our battery. Are we able to try and take P1 back away from Max Verstappen here? We'll have to go the long way around now as we go into the downhill braking zone, but Verstappen, he's got the better traction going through the corner, and we are still struggling. We are struggling a lot. And now, that means Carlos Sainz, he is now looking to try and get himself further up the field, but he's got Kimi Antonelli trying to use these conditions to get his Mercedes a little bit further up the field. Is it Antonelli that we might be replacing at the end of the season? We're in talks with Mercedes, so Antonelli, he has now got the pressure of driving for a seat. It is not known what his contracts are going into 2027. The same with George Russell. He currently sits P5 though, and he is consistently inside the points. Kimi Antonelli, he is struggling a little bit more, so is his seat going to be under threat? But we are even more under threat now from Charles Leclerc, who goes through. Very opportunistic there. And he manages to get that move done. He goes up into second position, and yeah, we are absolutely struggling. You can just see in that short amount of time he's been in front of us, he has absolutely gapped us. 1.9 seconds the gap, and we just keep running wide. But we've now got bigger issues rather than losing time to the front too. We have got an issue. Is this going to be a power unit failure? Whenever Mark comes onto the radio and says that he's got an issue and they're looking at it, it always gives me a bit of stress. But thankfully, it is only a DRS issue. And in these wet conditions, not an issue whatsoever. Riding on board now with Pierre Gasly. He's trying to chase down Franco Colapinto. But is he going to be the first victim of these wet weather conditions? He got collided by, and it is Fernando Alonso stranded in the middle of the track. And that is going to bring out the red flag. This could absolutely change some things up, because that looks like that could cause quite the cleanup. And I'm going to have a take a look to see what has happened here to Fernando Alonso. He's behind the Alpine there, and he tried his best to try and avoid it, and there was just really nothing he could do. He's very grip limited in these conditions, and our teammate Sonny Hayes, well done, sir. He was very nearly inside of that crash as well, but just managed to avoid it. You could hear the tires all locked up trying to avoid it, and so the strategy is going to go onto the intermediate tires for the rest of the race. And look, this red flag could actually play into our favour, because not too far away is hopefully a dry patch in the race where maybe we can make up some ground back. But expecting more rain again towards the end of the Grand Prix, and we're away once again here in Austria. Verstappen's had a brilliant start, but what's happened? He's slow. Verstappen's slow. We now go into the lead of the Grand Prix. We're third to first, and Verstappen, he's slow. Is he out of the Grand Prix? He pulls off into the long lap penalty for where the MotoGP competes here. And we now defend from Charles Leclerc, and it has been confirmed. Verstappen out of the Grand Prix. He will not make it 4 race wins out of 4 Grand Prix so far this season. So it is all to play for now, with the favourite gone, the home favourite gone. Red Bull looking like they're not going to win their home Grand Prix either as well, because Franco Colapinto is further down the field outside of the points as it stands now in 11th position. Piastri, he sits third. Is he going to be able to mount a attack on Charles Leclerc? But he has to be careful, because whatever he does, he's got his teammate Norris right behind. We squeeze Leclerc out, and that's going to allow Piastri to come through. And that puts him now up into second position in his papaya McLaren, and back on board with ourselves. We are definitely a bit more happy on these intermediate tyres with the track drying out just a little bit more. You can see they're setting a purple first sector, and the track is 100% starting to dry out now. I think we're not too far away from a set of dry tyres as we battle it out with Oscar Piastri side by side, but we're going to outbrake him and get the position. But we've outbraked ourselves, and we've lost our front end grip. We've washed out wide, and that has allowed Piastri to come back through. But we're using a bit of ERS, a bit of battery, and we show our nose down the inside, and usually not really where you see too many overtakes. big snap of oversteer on the exit, but we managed to keep it up the inside, and we will take the lead back away from Oscar Piastri. That was a great little battle there, and you can see he's actually now lost out to Lando Norris. So Norris, he's been able to capitalize on Piastri's bad run through there, get himself up into second position, and Carlos Sainz has now just got himself ahead of our teammate Sonny Hayes. That will now put him up into 8th position. Our teammate is down to 9th, but he has made a good recovery to get himself from 14th now inside the points, only 10 laps in. He has been helped by a red flag and a couple of DNFs in front of him, but he's also made some brilliant overtakes so far to get himself up into that 9th position. As Hamilton, he's now trying to get himself into the top 5 to take away that position away from George Russell. He's to the inside of his old teammate. And is he going to be able to get the move done? Because this is now going to give George Russell the inside for this next corner. And Hamilton swings it around the outside. Or is it going to be Russell to get the better exit? And it is going to be George Russell that is able to take that position. He gets now to P5. He's splitting the two Ferraris, but Hamilton, he's wasting absolutely no time because he's going side by side once again, but they have to be careful because right behind is Paul Aaron. He was trying to line up the switchback there on the two of them and try and get the 2-for-1 move done on the both of them. On board with ourselves, we have now failed that objective, and that was a little bit stupid because we've now got the traction to get ahead of Lando. But unfortunately, just the way with it is, as soon as they get a nose in front, it's an instant failure because we've kept him behind. It's just a case of for a 10th of a second, he got his nose ahead in the braking zone, and because of that, that has resulted in us losing that objective. Yeah, pretty stupid. But Mark now telling us that we need to consider boxing for the dry compound tires because it is now time for the switch up. The track is now dry enough. The DRS has been activated for a lap or two now, and the pace is definitely on now from Lando Norris, showing it down the inside once again. And as we do on this lap, we will bring it in for the pit stop onto the dry compound tyres using all of the pit entry. They're nearly dipping a wheel onto the grass, and that probably could have been a little bit catastrophic if we did manage to do that. But you can see that we've followed into the lane by pretty much everyone who was within the top 10 and didn't have a teammate in front of them. So most of the field's going to come in this lap and probably try and double stack if the gap is big enough. We'll go on to the hard compound tyres. Charles Leclerc, though, behind us, he was one of the top 3 drivers. He boxes onto the medium, so he's going for a little bit more of a aggressive strategy here. I would imagine he's going to go medium to the hards, and I guess it all depends on their tyre allocation based off of qualifying, and with the wet start, they've probably got a few extra tyres up their sleeve, so they've gone for a faster medium tyre and using it to great effect straight away, getting himself up into 2nd position ahead of Lando Norris. But unfortunately, he hasn't been able to break away out of the DRS. He's not quite within the DRS of myself to try and help defend, and so he will immediately lose that position just as quickly as he got it away from Lando here. So Norris will slip back into 2nd position. Leclerc finds himself in 3rd, but behind is 3 wide going to turn 3. Our teammates on the very inside there, the far right of the corner. Hamilton, who will find himself in a sandwich here between Paul Aaron and our teammate Sonny Hayes, who uses the DRS, and he will slide past Hamilton there. Excellent move from our teammate. That gets him now up into 8th position. So he's been making brilliant ground through the field, and we'll do a bit of an order check here now that the first pit stop phase has been completed. It's ourselves leading the way ahead of Lando Norris, then Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, George Russell, Paul Aaron, our teammate Sonny Hayes in 8th. We just saw that move up against Lewis Hamilton, and Kimi Antonelli rounds out the points as Gabriel Bortoleto, Franco Colapinto, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Alex Albon, then it's Nico Hulkenberg, Oliver Behrman, Isaac Hadjar, then it's Lance Stroll and Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls field, rounding out the field. As we jump back to the front of the field, though, it is George Russell now under attack from Carlos Sainz. 2 Mercedes-powered unit cars, and one's a Williams, one's the Mercedes, and it's going to be the Williams of Carlos Sainz, getting himself ahead of George Russell going into turn 3, and that is P5, P6. But the battle for the final points-paying position at this stage in the race now goes to Gabriel Bortoleto, who gets himself ahead of Kimi Antonelli. So, as I said before, Antonelli's now driving for a seat because we're in the talks of that factory Mercedes seat, and it could, at this rate, it's definitely looking like it could be Antonelli who could be out of the seat, and their star of the future has not been performing probably up to their scratch, as he now loses even more positions, falling himself down to the 12th position, and he's losing the spot to the Red Bull Ford of Franco Colapinto. He now actually gets himself, he's done the double overtake, he's got himself now into 10th position, so he's claiming a point now for the team with Max Verstappen's non-finish at this stage. So at least Red Bull's going to get 1 point out of this. George Russell, he still sits behind Carlos Sainz. He hasn't been able to get himself back ahead of the Williams. Paul Aaron now, he is looking to get himself ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So Hamilton, since the dry, he hasn't been able to really do too much. He's been falling back, if anything. So he's lost the position to our teammate, Sonny Hayes. And now he could be losing the position to Paul Aaron. And that is exactly what he's done. He's now behind that Aston Martin Honda. Back on board with ourselves. We've got our next objective to achieve a quick lap time of 1 minute 10.5. So that's about 4 seconds slower than our current fastest lap time. We're currently lapping within a couple of tenths of that fastest lap time. And as we now round out the final corner, knowing that I actually had a pretty good buffer, I backed it off just a little bit there. So I was about 3 tenths away from my best lap time. Actually setting a purple final sector though, considering that, oh my god, and that is a big moment for Lando Norris. I was just about to say that considering we'd backed it off a little bit, still setting a purple was pretty good, but got so distracted by the fact that Norris has just bottled it. He has lost her on the exit curb, and that has allowed Charles Leclerc to go back through, and that now gives us a 3-second lead. So we can definitely relax a little bit more now, knowing that we've got that much of a buffer to the next two, and though we'll definitely be battling it out, and battling it out is going to commence right now with Norris probably seeing a bit of red mist, trying to get himself back ahead of the red Ferrari, but this battling now is only going to cause more issues because they're going to lose more time. The gap's now 4 seconds to myself, and so I am sitting on the cockpit seeing these guys battle, and I am loving it because look, my gap is now nearly the 5 seconds. We have absolutely bolted, and now that we've seen these two battling it out, and now Leclerc goes back into second position, but is that going to be enough? Because his medium tyres are now starting to wear away, which means he's not going to be able to break that DRS, and so they will constantly now go back and forth with the DRS down the straights, and look at that. That is just extending our gap. We're now nearly at 6 seconds of a lead. We've nearly doubled it in the last few laps since Lando went for his little half spin there, and he'll try to go around the outside now to claim that second position back, and he does claim second back. But now it's just in time for him to come into the lane. So now it's McLaren and Ferrari as well, trying to go for an undercut here on myself. I've got a 6-second lead, so I can afford to stay out for a lap or two at most to see what the pace is like. I'll be brutally honest here. I was definitely considering trying to go to the end on our hard compound tyres, and then I kind of had a little bit of a look at the tyre wear, and it was going to, I reckon I would have quite easily made it if I had just sort of pulled the pace back a little bit. But we're in a very comfortable position. The pace is absolutely rapid at the moment in the dry, now that things have dried up. And I decided that I'm going to box. I'm going to play it safe. We're going to come in for the medium compound tyres. We're going to try and make sure we don't get caught by any sort of undercut from both Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc being on the fresh rubber. It's a really good stop, 2.3 seconds from the boys and girls down to Apex GP Prix crew. And yeah, as Mark said, it was a good stop. So we shouldn't be under any attack. And you can see, and now that the things have settled down a little bit, we've all filtered through. It is still 6 seconds to Lando Norris behind us, and so that is going to play absolutely beautifully into our hands because we're now on the fast and medium compound tyres. Norris and Leclerc both on the hards once again. We're going to do a little bit of an order check here again. So it's Piastri in 4th. Our teammate now jumps himself up to 5th through that pit stop phase. And then it's Russell, Sainz, Aaron Hamilton, and Colapinto rounding out that points. And then it's Bortoletto giving Antonelli. But the battle is continuing at the front for second position. They go side by side once again into the braking zone. Who's going to get the DRS? It is going to be Lando Norris edging ahead, but Charles Leclerc, look at the speed of that Ferrari, but he'll get himself now ahead and take that second position away from Lando, and this battle looks like it's going to be raging on for quite some time. But the longer these guys battle, look at that, Oscar Piastri, he's getting closer by the corner, and those two going side by side has brought Oscar Piastri right into this now. He is within their DRS, and look at that, he's gaining. Is he going to be able to make a move? He goes down the inside of Lando Norris, but in the end pulls out of it. Norris to the outside of Charles Leclerc. Brilliant racing here in Austria through the Styrian Mountains, and it is going to be Lando Norris who gets ahead of Charles Leclerc, but the Ferrari is so quick. Look how close he's able to stay without the DRS. It is Ferrari versus the two McLarens here in the closing stages of today's Grand Prix. Jumping on board with ourselves, we've now got to do a bit of ERS management. Mark wants us to use it for about 1.5 seconds per lap. And that is going to be, honestly, a very easy objective to get done. That is probably going to... I reckon I've been using about 5 to 6 seconds of ERS a lap here just to try and help the car get out of the slow pace corners going onto the straights. Just to, try and maximize what we do on the straights. You can see our leads now stretched out to 8 seconds ahead of these guys battling it out. And Charles Leclerc, once again, battling it out with a McLaren, but it's now the McLaren of Oscar Piastri because Norris has been able to use those tyres and pull ahead of Charles Leclerc. We're going to now head on to lap 35, the penultimate lap. We're going to pass the objective to get ourselves some extra pace there, bonuses for our driver rating, so we'll see how that plays into after the conclusion of this Grand Prix. But we're rounding the final corner, and that is going to be win number 1 for this season here in Season 2, and it is a very, very sweet victory here today.
The top step awaits as the checkered flag flies, and Joshua Pearce can say, "It's me, I'm a winner."
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
It's what they've all been racing towards, waiting for them. High above the pit lane is our podium. And for the lucky 3, it's time to stand on it.
Well, based off the start of the Grand Prix that we had, this is a very, very satisfying win, and it was an absolute nightmare start. We certainly weren't ready for the conditions to be as bad as they were, and you could just tell. Luckily, the red flag was our saviour and brought the dry weather closer and sooner, and we were able to use that pace to claim the win. Norris and Leclerc join us on the podium, and for Norris, it's huge for the Drivers' Championship to bring himself closer to Max Verstappen. We'll take a look at the rest of the top 10. It is Oscar Piastri. Our teammate Sonny Hayes scores his first points of the season. George Russell, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Paul Aaron, and Franco Colapinto, Fernando Alonso, and Max Verstappen with the only non-finishers of today's Grand Prix after their incidents. Max Verstappen, he still leads the Drivers' Championship, but only by 15 points, and it is myself now in second position. It is Lando Norris in third, 3 points behind me, and then Sonny Hayes, he moves up to 11th, 2 points behind Carlos Sainz. And as for the constructors, McLaren lead by 29 points to Red Bull 4. Then to Apex GP, we move into third, 18 points behind Red Bull. And we're now leading our heated championship rivalry against Oscar Piastri. We need to get to 97 championship points to win this. And we also now have a driver rating rivalry against Lewis Hamilton, which we are behind in. But we need to get to driver rating 91 to win. And for our driver ratings, everything gains points for an overall driver rating now of level 88, and our driver recognition has bumped up to 58% against our teammate after today's race win.
It seems as if you have a new rival. This is the perfect opportunity to show the world why you belong in this sport, and to show me why you belong amongst my very exclusive clientele. That's a joke. I love working with you.
So Elena there, just confirming our new rivalry with Lewis Hamilton. And next episode, we're heading to Spa, where we dominated last season. So now with a decent car under us, once again, hopefully we can go back-to-back victories there for the Belgian Grand Prix. And so if you did enjoy this one, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.